Hello everyone, welcome back to the Foyt Health and Wellbeing Podcast, where we chat to all of our wonderful members in the Foyt community to learn about what they work on, how they help people, and how they take people forwards and improve their mental health and well-being, physical health and well-being, and all kinds of well-being that there are in the world. We all need help sometimes, and it's great to have so many experienced professional practitioners available to give help and support. So I'd like to welcome Anne-Marie Pereira as we unbox and unwrap some more wonderful ideas about fertility and emotional healing. She's an expert with over 6 years of working with women facing fertility problems and emotional exhaustion. She's developed a program, Free in Fertility, and so she helps people receive and live in that freedom in their fertility journey. She provides an integrative approach that helps women restore balance, rebuild trust in their own bodies, and experience profound changes within just a few weeks. So, Anne-Marie, it's great to have you on again and to have another conversation.
Thank you, Andrew. Very happy to be here and follow up on our last podcast together. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's delightful to speak again. So you've wanted to chat about the unsafe feeling that some parents or potential mothers have uh, in the journey of fertility and when they can't have a child. So could you just explain to me what that sort of unsafe feeling is and where it might come from?
Yeah, so building on what we talked about last time, I thought it was quite important for us to go a bit more into details and maybe talk more about experience that I have seen in my practice. So in terms of that
Yeah,
unsafe feeling, we usually, when we're on this fertility journey, we usually look a lot at the physical, right? So many women go
of course.
to that rabbit hole of having a look at the hormones, having a look at what they eat, having a look at, what do they do with their body, are they exercising, all the things that are linked to the physical. And it's very important, there is no doubt about it. I'm not going to say otherwise. All the things have their importance. But what I've seen also speaking to a few IVF clinics located close to where I am based, is that the emotional part is usually left on the side. So there is no emotional guidance, there is no emotional understanding about where the couple is in terms of how they're dealing with the whole process. Because usually they've been on this road for a long time when they come to me. And what I've been able to see is that the emotional has been completely left on the side. Right? So there is no understanding with regards to how I feel inside during the whole process. And when speaking to these women, and in my practice, what I can see is that there is a very clear unsafe feeling. So what I can see is that the
Yeah,
body is contracting. And like talking very simply, we can think of a person, and you will be able to do that as well, Andrew. Like sometimes we look at people and they're like this, like I'm exaggerating it, right? But sometimes we feel like the body is
yeah,
itself closing. And what I see is a lot of protection in these women. So they're protecting from something that maybe have even nothing to do with fertility itself. But when you want to get pregnant, when this is your objectives, then the objective is to get an open body, right? Because it needs to be open to receive life and open to a lot of things, right? But when we talk about babies, it's open to receive life. So this unsafe feeling they go through life with, and it's usually coming back very early. So with the women I work with, I won't say it's always 100% of the time, but in the work that we do together, we go back to childhood. So this unsafe feeling is not new. It's not showing up now because of the fertility journey, but the whole emotional turmoil of the fertility journey is bringing everything to the surface. So it's making it
right.
very, very clear. And so what I see is the body is unsafe. It's contracting, it's closing. And so this makes the getting pregnant very difficult, even if you go through IVF, even if you go through IUI, even if you do all the treatments and all the guidances that clinics, doctors, and other therapists will give you. Sometimes, if you don't look at this emotional part, or if you've been on this journey for a very long time and it seems that nothing is working, then what I see is that there is something a lot deeper that the body is trying to show through not reacting or acting the way we expect it to.
I see. Yes, the body it's unsafe, it's insecure, so it's doing sort of a protective fight or flight reaction, and therefore it can't, as you say, receive new life and be ready to say, yes, let's go, let's do something, let's create life. So you're saying that that doesn't just come from the experience of the fertility journey, but it's showing, it's opening up, uncovering something that's already there. So where could that background feeling of unsafety be coming from?
Yeah, so here I'll go through like one first layer, and then we can go to the next one. So the first layer is when there is something as emotionally challenging, I would use that word, as to not being able to have a baby when we want one, right? Because when we want one, we want one tomorrow, right? We've built out our lives, we found the partner, we have the house, we have the job, we have the money, we have everything. Now we want to get pregnant tomorrow, right? So it's usually like quite a challenging thing, because you never think about fertility challenges before you're in front of them. So that's the first part.
Of course, yeah.
What I see is that so the fertility challenge, and for being such a challenge, such a strong conversation of the body, such a strong symptom in the body, it's usually not something that's coming from yesterday or the day before or last week or last month. What I can see in the women I work with is there is something that goes back. Yes, it's like it's a lot of layers. And when I ask them, well, is it the only thing that's not working in your life today? And they tell me all the things. There's this and there's this and there's this, and it's like piling up. And the body has been talking to these women in all sorts of ways. I can give examples, but it can be through the relationship, through how they feel, through their confidence, through their body, through autoimmune issues, through depression, through overwhelm, through burnout, like all the things the body has been speaking to them in bigger and bigger ways throughout their whole life. And then the fertility challenge arises. So it's usually not something that's coming from now, but it's bringing all of it to the surface because it's something very close to our heart when we want to get pregnant and have a baby, right? But most of most of the story comes back to childhood. So that's what I've seen in most of my clients. So that would be the first layer.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, because that background of years and years of development as a human, being a child and growing up into the adults we are, it's inbuilt in us. It's made us who we are. We like to say you are what you eat. Similar phrase as a certain amount of weight as well. You are what you think. You are what you do. You grow into what you habit. Whatever your habits are, become who you are. If your habit is always eating pizza 3 times a week, eventually that's going to show up in probably having some more body weight. If your habit is being fit and healthy and active, your body will remain relatively fit, healthy, and active. And so if there's been a tendency to certain levels of pressure and certain stresses of the varieties you described there, that can really weigh you down. So that makes perfect sense. But you mentioned that as a sort of a first layer that you're
Yes.
unwrapping with the person. What would be the next one then?
Yeah, just to come back to the first layer, what I think it's true and it's in terms of how we think, but that thinking cannot be it cannot be ours in the first place. So let's see if I grow up thinking I don't deserve this or I shouldn't
Oh,
have that, or if I grow up thinking I never want to become a mother like mine, or if I never want to put a child in this type of situation, or if I'm afraid to repeat something that my parents did. These are only examples. But I
mm,
grow up and I don't even know I have those thoughts, those subconscious patterns, way of thinking. But then when the time comes for me to become a parent, to become a mother, then this can make my body contract. It's like it's protecting me from something I'm so afraid of. And this doesn't have to
wow.
be logical. It's not, oh, but it's not logical. And, like you thought something when you were young and now, but it's not about logic. It's really about how the body is reacting to something, right? So it's not about what happened, it's about the meaning you gave to it and how it is in your body today. So this is the first
Mm,
layer. And what I see is that contraction, that closing instead of opening, which is what we want when we want to get pregnant. So that's the first
I
layer.
see.
The second
Yeah, and
layer
something that can
is
be very
something I
small in
have been
childhood, once it's
seeing
sat there and
appear
you've
more and more.
thought it across, it can grow.
Yeah.
Mm, you go.
The second layer is something I have been seeing happening more and more over the past 6 months. So when you said to me, okay, let's do a second podcast, I thought, oh, okay, let's take this that is showing up more and more in the women I work with to have a second chat, to give that other eyes that I know not many people talk about. So that second layer, and I'll give you straight away an example. I talked to a lady a few months ago, and she said to me, "And what's happening in my family line is that since my grandmother, all of the daughters, um, my cousins, all we have to go through some kind of treatment to get pregnant. So it's like the whole
Wow.
feminine line." He's having issues since that grandmother. We didn't go into detail with regards to what happened to her grandmother because she didn't have this information, but it's very clear that there is something that happened in the past that's now impacting all of the women of this family. So this is the second layer that has been showing up. I have more and more women that bring some kind of health issue that they have and their mother had and their grandmother had. I see this more and more. It's like our generation, I feel that our generation of women, we are being shown things that have been maybe hidden in the past because they thought it was the best way to do that, or they didn't know how to deal with it, or maybe they didn't even have a choice to talk about, let's say, losses, challenges that happened, like anything that could have happened we don't know of because it was back few generations. Sometimes we've heard of it, sometimes it's known, sometimes it's not. But what I see more and more is like our generation, we have the capacity, we have a bit better understanding of how these impacts work, and we have more curiosity also to understand. Okay, let's look at how it was for my mom, how it was for my grandmother, and we have more information today to look at that and heal that. And that's what I've seen more and more happening in women. There are things
Interesting.
in their own life that happen, but more and more I see things that happened even before.
So that's sort of creating a context that the environment that the child that now wants to become a parent grew up in, and because of that ethos, that way of thinking, that approach to life, that environment that had a certain level of fear or worry about it or about something else, can influences the child and the way they grow up. So when they get to the point of wanting to have a child themselves, it's sort of been inbuilt. That's interesting. I'd just like to clarify something, because when you started talking about parents and grandparents, I immediately thought, okay, is this something genetic? Is it something physical? Is it something to do with an issue? And of course, there could be fertility issues that are purely physical and genetic, and someone has an
Yes.
issue in their genes which is passed down, like many unfortunate situations that people have where problems are passed down.
Yes.
But you're talking, because of that first layer, you're talking about the emotion, the fear, the pressure. Are you specifically focusing on a fear and a pressure being passed down from one generation to the next?
Yes, we can look at two sides. If I look at the physical, I can understand that, and taking my example, when my mother was forming in my maternal grandmother's belly, a part of something that was going to become me was already there, right? So as the baby
Yep.
is forming, and the first how can I say that in English? But like the first form of the egg
Mm.
inside my mother's
Yep.
was already forming in my grandmother. So in terms of that, there is a clear physical link
Yeah,
between our maternal grandmother and us. So
of
this
course,
is
yes.
this is um, this is something like we can talk about physically, right? The thing is, everything that our grandmother went through, right? Whether we're male or female, there is something that, if our grandmother went through something emotionally, then we can say that there's this emotional environment is already there, right? So can be, and we know they didn't go through very easy lives, right? They
No.
didn't go through a lot of freedom. They didn't go through having everything they wanted and needed at that time, right? So it's like there's a lot of maybe anxiety, stress, maybe a lot of beliefs and patterns that were there at that time that passed on through our mothers, right? So physically, we can think of it. What I feel and what I've seen is sometimes, and I'm going to give you another example that just came to mind, which was I worked with a lady that was very afraid of becoming pregnant. So she really wanted consciously, which is usually what happens, but then subconsciously, when I asked her, okay, but think like you can do this exercise. I like to do it, which is like think of, we can say to the women listening to us, think you're at your doctor's appointment and the doctor is confirming right now that you're pregnant. What's the first emotion that comes to mind? And usually it's very positive, right? So it's like, oh, finally, I'm having this
We're there.
decision.
Yay. Hallelujah. Great.
Yeah, we're there finally. But then you ask them, okay, now think of it again. What's the second emotion that comes to mind? And sometimes, or most of the times, when women have been on this journey for a long, long time, which are the women I usually speak with, that second layer of emotion is it feels like a contraction. It feels like, oh, I'm afraid of something. And that lady that I wanted to talk to you about as an example, when we looked at what happened before, we saw that her grandmother had lost her first baby and her mother had lost her first baby. So even if
Wow.
consciously she wasn't at all thinking about that, there was such a big fear. And I saw this in her story, but I saw that as well in families when the first birth was very traumatic or challenging, or when the baby was born with some kind of challenge, physical or mental challenge, then that generation after subconsciously have some kind of fear of the past repeating, right?
Yes. Which is a perfectly natural response. Of course you would, because if it could happen to my grandparent, my parent, it could happen to me. Of course,
Yes.
that's an immediate worry. Okay, so what can happen, and how can we help a woman who realizes she's been carrying this pressure, this stress that, in a sense, was not hers to carry? It was a worry that happened 20, 30, 50 years ago. They went through that, but that isn't necessarily and shouldn't be their story now. The present is a different time, and so if she's been carrying this stress and this pressure from what happened there, subconsciously in the back of her mind, just this worry, what happens when she realizes in the conversation with you that that's what's been going on?
I think the first thing that I wanted to pass through this podcast was ask yourself if something that happened before can be impacting you now. So that would be the first thing, the observation, right? Even before you decide to work with a therapist on that. That would be the first thing, because when you manage to observe it and understand, oh, maybe that's something that's happening to me now, maybe it's enough for your body to open somehow, right? Because understanding that it's not my story, okay? I have witnessed it because, I was there. I was part of me, lived through this. Or maybe when I was young, I heard all of these stories and somehow I made them mine when they're not, as you were saying, right? It's something I've witnessed, heard, that somehow I've made mine. And that fear that they lived through, then I'm making it mine as well. So maybe sometimes it's enough to observe it and really create this separation and understand that, okay, it's their story and I honor it because it's what brought me today, but it's not my story. So sometimes it's enough to create this separation, right? So that would be the first thing. Then when you understand that, maybe there's a pattern that's repeating, or at least that's impacting you on your journey, there is something that's very important. I had to repeat it myself a lot of times, which is the past doesn't repeat itself. We're afraid that it might, the fear may never disappear completely because it has its own objective as well of maintaining us alive on this planet. But it's really repeating ourselves that it's not because that happened that it's going to happen again. So that's very important that we repeat that to ourselves. It's a new story now, right? And we say that we shouldn't say negative sentences like the past doesn't repeat itself, but it's really what I said to myself many times. And it's new story. It's my story now. It's a new moment. There was what was, and I honor it, but now it's something new.
Absolutely, because respect and honoring our parents is really important, and respecting that they may have made mistakes, but they love me, they care for me, and they've had their challenges and they've gone through tough times, and they were feeling pressure of getting home and taking care of the children and making enough money to put food on the table, and that pressure and stress they were under partly influenced and made the environment that we grew up in, and that influences how we feel. And as you've said, the challenges that they may have had having children themselves, whatever those might have been, well, it could internally influence us and make it more challenging for us to take that step and for the body to accept the idea that yes, it's safe and okay to go forward and have a child ourselves.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, taking that time to work with a therapist to think through what is that thing that could be holding the body back which we might not know in our heads because it's so internal, it's so subconscious that we're ignoring it. Just working that through, unwrapping those layers, as you say, could really help someone take the steps forward. Well, thank you very much, Anne-Marie. It's been great to have a good chat and look into such a deep internal part of such an important journey that maybe people go through. We hope that it will help many people
Yes.
in the future. Is there any way that people can connect with you to go through their own journey and have you help them along that road and that journey of fertility yourself?
Yes, Andrew, just another example came to mind, and I'm going to be
Please.
very short, but it might speak to somebody. What I've seen as well happen is so we crave belonging to a family, right? And what I've seen happening also is that internal belief that, okay, if my mother didn't deserve to have that experience or didn't manage to have a certain experience, then for me to belong in that family, for me to create that strong connection with my mother, sometimes I won't allow myself to have what she didn't have. So it's another layer that people can look at. And of course you can look at it with a therapist, and if needed, and if you feel it's, but sometimes it's like observing it and really starting to ask yourself the right questions, trying to understand what they went through. Maybe it's enough for you to start observing and giving yourself different ways of thinking and changing those intrusive thoughts that sometimes we are not even aware of, right? We don't even know they're running in the background, and it's something that's impacting our mind without us even understanding, and giving that message to our body to close down and to not let anything in, not let anything out, and just be in that protective mode. So yeah, Thank you. I just wanted to drop this one as well so that it can speak to somebody that's watching us.
Absolutely. Thank you. And yeah, as with any set of problems, the more you unpack layers, the more layers you can find, and those layers can interlock and overlap, and
Yes.
everything can really tie together. Our brains are not just a set of separate ideas. They are made up of the stories and experiences and life we've lived, and it's all wrapped together. So each one takes time to unwrap. But if this helps someone unwrap a few and get started and move forward on their journey, that would be wonderful. How can
Yes.
someone connect with you and reach out to you to have you help them?
Thank you, Andrew. So my website and Instagram are free in fertility, so you will find me very, very easily online. I try to publish as much as possible on that topic. I think there's a lot of miscommunication online, and my aim is to be more positive around the fertility journey and what you can reach when you've done all the tests, tried everything. And I feel there's still that layer, and I gave 2 examples of the layers I look at in my work, so that women have the whole picture of what's impacting the fertility journey. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you. Absolute pleasure speaking with you. I look forward to speaking again soon.
Thank you.
Okay, bye now.